All right, so we got through what this class is, what this class isn't. Again, I got 2 sections of this class. So 1, that means that I may be feeling like I'm repeating myself. So if I'm like, I talk about, just let me, help me figure out what I did and did not say, is all I'm saying.
I like it when you repeat, I forget what you say sometimes. So
okay.
I like the repetition.
Okay, good. So that as well, you are welcome to, if you're going to miss a day, right? If you want to show up to the Monday, Wednesday section or the Tuesday, Thursday section, I don't care. I just don't. Because here's what I'm doing. When it comes to grading you guys, I have then set up the spring 2017 page. So basically, we have between the 2 sections, 49 students. And what I need you guys to do for your choose your project site assignment, which we will be going over here in a minute. Well, we do it right now. So again, you have to pick a project site that you guys are going to be doing in this class. Again, this is not a client type class. You just need something to work on, right? And so what seems to work out very well is if you have taken Web 200, convert your Web 200 site into a WordPress site. That usually works out very well. Same thing, if you've taken Web 120 and you did whatever final project in Web 120, take your Web 120 project and convert that into a WordPress site. Sometimes students get a little insecure about, hey, I'm not really a designer, and this is my project, and it doesn't really look good, and I don't care. I just don't care. It's the functionality, right? In other words, what I need from you guys is then to set up a client staging area for your project that'll have links to view your templates and your prototypes. You will also need to create a GitHub account if you don't have one already, and link to your code for, I should really change this, just link to your code for your theme repository. You are going to in other words, your template repository is going to become your theme repository, and we'll do that here in a second, okay? So what I am going to be doing then is, so I got an email shortly before class that Thaddeus had picked his site and done his client staging area, so I'm going to make an example out of you, Thaddeus, right? Because you love it, right? So, right, here we are. Again, you can just, say view templates, view prototype, view code instead of the way I had it, right? And I should actually change that on mine as the example. But nonetheless, did you put your templates up to GitHub yet?
Yep.
So if we go, no, okay, doesn't matter. All right, so I'll show you that in a second. As well, because you did this early, Thaddeus, I have an Easter egg for you. The meta description on this page now is, I wonder if people searching for Thaddeus Ukari will end up on this page. So hopefully, when people do search for your name, we'll see the power of the meta description. I'm just testing out my SEO and see how powerful it is, right? So, what is WordPress? Well, again, kind of what we talked about was that WordPress is, I think, an extremely powerful and fascinating open source project or content management system for bloggers, web designers, and developers. So again, the misconception that people have about WordPress is, well, isn't that just a blogger's type site? You're real limited, right? So has anybody ever heard that kind of feedback or thought themselves, well, WordPress, Blogger, Squarespace, that kind of stuff, you don't have a whole lot of freedom to really customize your theme and customize your experience. You're kind of limited to the out-of-the-box content management system that they provide. You're limited to the out-of-the-box themes that they provide. I'm going to separate you guys. It's going to happen, right? The out-of-the-box theme that you guys are that they provide, et cetera, et cetera. Who's kind of heard that about WordPress? Let me double check that I'm recording really quick because, okay, good. On Monday, I hit start broadcast and it gave me the, do you really want to start now kind of thing? And so I had to catch that. But let's say it like this. Yes, WordPress started off as a blogging software, right? Back in probably 2005-ish. I got a hold of it myself in about 2008. And one of the first websites that I created using WordPress was, which is totally broken now. If somebody needs an internship project to do, I have some work for you. You can convert my old band's website to being responsive and fix all the errors that are going on. So if anybody wants to do an internship project, a WordPress project, I've got some hours for you. So basically what I did when I first started learning WordPress was I found so I installed WordPress on my server. So I downloaded it from WordPress.org. We'll go over that in a minute. Again, like I had told you guys on Tuesday. Again, I'm going to always forget what day it is as well. But what I did was I downloaded a theme, a pre-existing theme that somebody else had built, right, that had the content areas that I wanted. In other words, if you were in my Web 200 class, right, remember how we did the drawing of header, navigation, content area with text, a sidebar, and a footer, right? So I found a theme that had a layout similar to that had its own graphics in there and stuff. And what I decided to do then was slowly but surely swap out the graphics and start customizing the HTML and CSS portion of the WordPress theme, right? Makes sense? Has anybody ever dabbled with WordPress in that respect where you've looked at a pre-existing theme, right? Dan, Frankie, you have, right? Ron? That is the absolute wrong way to go about it. End of story. In other words, what I ended up doing was hodgepodging, rebuilding that theme into this theme. And I wish I would have just started from scratch and built from a really nice foundation and built the functionality into it that I wanted to build into it. But it was, 2008, and what did I know about WordPress? It was a learning experience, right? How many of you have ever used a pre-existing template and tried to customize it, and you spent more hours trying to customize it than you probably would had you just started from scratch, right? Exactly. So that might be good for a learning experience of what not to do, right? Right? You've done it. So instead, what we are going to do then is, in this class, we are going to take a template system and build a theme out of it. Make sense? Okay. But let's go back here to the what is WordPress. So what exactly is a blog, right? A blog is basically a word that has been compressed from web and log, blog, right? Although if you say web and log together, it also says we blog, and I've always found that fascinating, right? But basically, when I first started using it as well, was I put together my personal blog just to honestly kind of let my mom know what I was up to and let people know, let them see pictures of, things, right? So this theme right here as well, I used a pre-existing theme just to get me by, to get something up and running. And slowly but surely, I rebuilt this whole theme from the ground up. and customized it so much, again, that I probably should have just started from scratch, right? But again, I did this one, started this one a long time ago. And so what you can see here is basically a website that is a personal blog website that has a bunch of pages, right? You can go and listen to some music that I've written and played on. You can see my resume. You can see photos of how I torture my dog. That poor dog. She has to put up with so much. Yeah, that is a piece of bacon over top her nose. No, because I told her not to. I put it on her nose and I'm doing this. And so look at the panic in her eyes. That she's just like, you're going to let me have that. And so she will after a couple of moments if I'm just like, you know, just do it. But she'll pause enough to let me get a photo of it, right? Huh? She's a pit. Yeah. She'll be 12 in May. Her name is Summer, also known as Princess Buttlicker. So, and you know, you got to dress her up for the holidays too, right? Happy New Year, man. Thanks, Dad. So, WordPress really kind of took off as the blogger's software, right? But that being said, right? Okay, so most blogs feature automatic creation of web pages, automatic formatting of web pages based on a predefined template or theme, the ability to include text, images, media via a rich text editor, the ability for readers to comment. We're not going to do comments in this class, right? That's the one thing that I'm not going to have you do a comments template and integrate comments into your site. But after you do this, it'll be easy enough for you to integrate that later on. I think there's more important things than comment section that I want to teach you, right?
Most places will take them on anyway now.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever, well, let's just say it like this. Man, am I always disappointed every time I'm on Facebook and I start reading the comments. My faith in humanity just plummets.
YouTube, everything's always like, I paid $800 an hour.
God, Jesus Christ. So WordPress will allow you to update and manage your content using the WordPress administration screens. Okay, so basically, if we go to, let's just use my business site as an example. So if I then log into my business site, so here is then the behind the scenes WordPress dashboard, WordPress administration panel, okay? So basically WordPress can be broken into, if we look at the, let's get the other lecture up and running as well, anatomy of a WordPress site. So the anatomy of WordPress site, right? Again, if I am having an argument with, or I've had an argument with a developer in the past, anybody know Thomas Wilburn? He taught JavaScript in Advanced Web Projects class with me here a while ago. He's very much one of the smartest developers, smartest people I know. He works for the Seattle Times as a data journalist, developer. Anyhow, his gripe with WordPress was, yeah, it's a system that's basically broken into postings and pages. That's not the most efficient way to set up a website, okay? So I do have a counter argument of that I discovered a little while ago, or it finally dawned on me, like I said. Remember how I said, WordPress, everything is a post object. Remember how I said that? Okay, in other words, Everything is an object in WordPress. Everything has an ID, okay? So let's say it like this. Let's just say, okay, postings and pages. Let's start there. So what's the difference between a posting and a page?
Page can have a lot of postings.
Could. Frankie.
Isn't it posting an object?
Well, they're all objects,
Okay.
but specifically posting versus page.
I'm totally blanking right now.
It's okay.
Posting is content and the page contains content?
Let's define it like this. And those of you that at home are wondering what's happening, I'm drawing on the board right now. All right. So in terms of a typical information architectural schema, your hierarchy, your node link hierarchical diagram that you have either learned in WEB105 or in WEB200. Okay. In other words, I have a website. I have an about page. I have a services page that underneath it has 4 different services. So I have an about page. You can read about me. I have a services page. That services page then has subpages. Portfolio. It has subpages. Logos, print, websites, research. I have a contact page. You can contact me. Then I have a blog page, and this is what you're saying, Ron. Now I have a blog page as well, but instead of these being subpages here, these then are postings. I also have category postings, right? So if I am drawing it up here, this little box of categories, right, and multiple pages or multiple postings kind of falls outside of the pages. Where's the red pen? There's one. Pages, which are static content for the most part, right? Informational content for the most part, versus postings are timely articles, tutorials, et cetera, like that. Does that make sense? So there's not much of a distinction between pages and postings. They are all then going to be a post object. I always want to put a $sign when I'm writing the variable PHP. A post object that then has a title, etc. A post object that has a title, etc. Right? So what I'm saying is, you guys know what the arrow means, right? Property of an object. Yeah? Is that how you guys understand it? That's how I understand it.
No.
Okay.
Dot in any other language.
Huh?
It's a dot in any other language.
Yeah, like in JavaScript. Okay. So for instance, told you were going to learn some programming fundamentals, right? So for instance, if we look at then on my home page here, right? Remember what I was saying? I wanted to, on my home page, then go grab the objects or subpages of the parent page, right? So when you are writing stuff like this out, right? If I'm saying, so we can say then, post ID, right? So the ID is a property of that post object. That's probably the easiest one to understand, right? Does that make sense? So if I am looking for the post ID, the property of that post for a post parent or for another object or some other argument, right? That's what I mean by everything is then a post object. It has an ID, right? But in WordPress, the two main types of post objects are then pages. Okay, so if I go under pages, then here's where I can actually see the page tree that I've set up. Okay, so if I go to my services page, whoops. All right, and I am saying query posts, blah, 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 basically post parent 185. So anything that has the post parent of 185, specifically the post type of page. So we're looking for pages under 185 to get. Does that make sense? So if services here then is, and don't worry, I will take a photo of this. So if services is 185, children of 185.
Where'd you get 185 from? Is that assigned automatically, or did you just arbitrarily choose that?
If you'd let me finish, I would tell you.
I don't know if you're gonna say it or not. Don't ask.
I know. Good question, Dan.
Thanks, Mike.
See it up there? Oh,
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. There's two places that you can find it. When you are, they used to actually have it here. You could actually get the ID from there too, but they took that out. So anytime you create a new, let's say new page. Oh, I'm gonna have to save it probably. No, I don't want to save it.
Just save it as a draft.
Shut up. $24.93 is. Yeah, it just, in other words, all all the attachments, all the pages, all the postings, every time I make a new piece of content underneath the new menu here, new user, new page, new link, new media, new post, new staff member. So if we add a plugin called staff members, that you're adding staff members, you're making a custom post type. In the 210 class this past summer, we had a project where they needed to make, where we made a custom post type called productions, right? Remember that, Thaddeus, from the Latino Theater Projects one?
Not really.
Not really? Whatever. That was yours. I was right. I forgot about that. He's right there. You're so quiet. So yeah, where we made a custom post type called productions. So we then had let's just show you. So we were testing this out, productions. So this one, this production that was running at Mark's house from this date to that date. We made a custom post type called productions that if I went to edit this one, where we had a start date, an end date, and a location, and a featured image, this one is ID number 2054, right? So I really should update the anatomy of a WordPress site instead of just pages and postings into everything is a post object, and here's how you go about doing that, okay?
You said there was 2 different places to find that unique ID?
Yes, the other place to find that ID is right here. So when we get into the link structure, the default link structure, in other words, if I said www.premiumdw.com/?P, what's $P? What does the question mark mean? What? It's a query. You're querying the database for P equals 185. P in this instance is post object, okay? Right? So this is where if I wanted to go and, you know, like the short links, those like bit.ly links, right? So instead of copying the long link, like let's say I wanted to post something to Facebook, right? Like let's say I read or I wrote the blog article, this blog article, and I wanted to grab the URL and post it to Facebook or post it somewhere else, but that's a really long URL, okay? So let's say I wanted to use the short URL instead, right? I could go and look at the source code and once you've set up your theme correctly, thank you, Frankie. No, 86 you said?
Sorry.
There it is, 88, right? I could then go and grab premiumdw.com post object or QP equals 22051, right? So everything has that ID like that. So the most common then types of objects in WordPress then are new page posting, right? That's how we kind of fill out our information architecture like this. So pages then, we use pages for the static, I don't really want to say static, but that's how it's been described. The kind of about us stuff that's in the hierarchy of information, right? In terms of pages. And so if we then went to pages and looked at the services page, okay, then here we can assign a parent, use a template, and order it if we want to, okay? If we go then and take a look at the postings, here's a case study that I've never finished. Weren't you going to finish that for me, Adam?
Okay, so also, I don't have access to your background.
I know, I'm just teasing. I'm just kidding.
You keep thinking you gave me access to it.
I know. So if I looked at this one then, right, this post object, then because it's a posting and not a page, it is using categories, okay? If you do a custom post type, like this, these productions, then you can create whatever meta boxes, start date and time, end date and time, event location, featured image, etc. Right? So in other words, when the whole thing has stemmed from, well, you know, WordPress is just broken into postings and pages, and that's not really practical, right? How many of you have ever used Drupal? Anybody heard of Drupal? Okay. Blocks of content is the way they do it. So I really wish I would have been savvy enough to say to the developer, Thomas, that said, you know, Drupal uses blocks, and that's, you know, much more easy to then manage. But when I was using Drupal a long time ago, what I had to do was create a block for pages, create a block for postings, create a block for blog. You know Drupal very much?
You know, I was always told that WordPress was easier to use, but you got less. But Drupal was a steeper learning curve, but you got more.
That's my answer, right? No.
I use it for the econ.
Yeah.
They have a stronger econ.
Yeah.
So
So my answer to that is, once I really discovered that everything is a post object, indeed, there's no post object that you can't create with properties. So, right? That's what it is to me, right? Yeah, maybe Drupal has a little bit more power out of the box in terms of like user administration rights and that kind of stuff. But WordPress is a lot easier on the developers, right? And there's nothing that you can't build within WordPress. You can build an e-commerce product section. You can make products into a custom post type and go from there and add in whatever meta boxes you want, price, photos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing you can't build if you understand that everything is a post object. Make sense? Okay. So that's my then answer to, well, what is WordPress, right? How then is WordPress broken down? Okay. So postings then can have a date, have content. You can then put in your navigation pages or post categories, links, so on and so forth. There's not a whole lot you can't do in WordPress, right? Again, each post object then has properties like title, date, category, content, so on and so forth. Everything is generated off of an ID number, okay? So, where can you find WordPress? Did you have a question? Oh, no. So where can you find WordPress? Well, again, this is where that one misconception, I think, really comes from. Well, you can go to WordPress.com. You can go to WordPress.com and you can sign up for an account and you can host a blog here. You can even register a domain name and create the alias so it points to that domain name, so on and so forth. But at WordPress.com, you are limited to, as far as I know, I haven't used WordPress.com in a long time, but you are limited to their pre-existing themes. You also don't have access to the code. In other words, when I was working, I was talking to actually the guy that taught me how to play drums when we were in high school. He's been a friend of mine since we were 3 years old. He's a professional drummer that travels around the world. His name is Tom Dante. I'm not going to look him up and put him up on video. But he has a blog, his blog on WordPress.com. And he contacted me and said, hey, you know, would you mind helping me edit and customize some stuff? And I said, well, I've poked around. I don't think I have FTP access, or I don't think I can actually access the files to customize this theme for you. So when he went and checked on it, he said, certainly, the answer came back, yep, no FTP for you, right? So there is another way besides FTPing into the into your server to get a hold of the files. Under Appearance, there is the editor where you can access the files for your theme. Here's what I'm saying. Don't ever touch this. Don't. Why? Let me answer it like this. In this class, we're still going to use FTP, meaning, well, what does FTP stand for? File Transfer Protocol. Meaning, if I have my local files here, right? So here is the, oh, they cleaned off. I think I just grabbed this one page. But if we look at my remote server, and unfortunately, I don't think I can zoom in here. Is there a way, Adam, do you know that I can zoom in just without?
No.
Yeah. Huh?
It does. If we all want to have a headache, we should be like a thing about it.
Where?
See the toolbar? There should be a picture of the screen with the magnifying glass in front of it. And if you can't find it that way,
I'm not even going to bother. Yeah, screw it. So here is the WordPress burrito for Spring 16. Here is the WordPress burrito for Spring 15. Here is my default demo. Here are my default templates. This is my index page there. That's my staging little index page, right? So in other words, I can FTP into a server where I have accessed all the WordPress files. So how do you do that? Well, that's where, and I'll get to answering your question a little bit in a few minutes, Dan, or my question that you, yeah, anyway. If we go back here to what is WordPress? WordPress.org. WordPress.org then is where you can download WordPress. So if I download WordPress, don't do it now, don't worry about it. But if I download WordPress, it is going to download as a big zip file. In that zip file then is going to be all of this, okay? This is called WordPress core. First rule of WordPress core. No. Do not edit WordPress core. Second rule of WordPress core. Do not edit WordPress core. Okay? The only thing that you should ever edit in WordPress is anything that is in the WP content folder. Okay? The WP content folder is where then your plugins are located. Your themes are located. Currently in my themes folder, right, I have, let's actually log into last spring's demo real quick. Because I forgot the password to my regular WordPress demo. So I can't log into that. Every time I try, I forgot the password. So here's my Spring 16 demo. So under appearance, I have themes, and currently in these themes, then you can see that the Spring 2016 demo is the active one. When you download WordPress, it will come with some of their pre-existing themes that they've built for you to use, 2015, 14, 2016. I'm guessing there might be a 2017 one. We'll see when we download it. Princess is basically then the theme that when I'm trying to demo how to use a theme that somebody else built, somebody else designed to install, right? We're going to do that in this class before we get into building our own theme, okay? So if I then, let's say, visited this site currently, it's running my demo theme that I am going to be building from my templates along with you guys in class, where you guys are going to be building with your templates that you, and we'll go over that assignment here in a bit, right? That you guys are going to have to build. So if I then went to themes and tried to say live preview of Princess, then Princess is going to give me my main navigation and some of the content, etc., that I've built in, but it's going to look funny, right? Or look funny to me, meaning, well, this theme has defined, designed, produced, coded, whatever you want to say, its own look and feel and its own functionality, right? So meaning it's going to generate how the blog looks. It is going to generate how then pages, etc. look, right? So just like my theme on my business site, again, I've chosen for the front page to be broken into services, portfolio, and blog, how I've actually done that is not by drag and drop widgets at all. That is because I have then in the code actually said on front-page.php, we'll get into pages like the template stuff in a second. I've said get header, add flex slider, start the ID of content, give it a class of home, start the about us loop, services loop, portfolio loop, blog loop, right? In other words, I have customly get the children a 186, get the latest 6 postings, etc. So again, what is programming? What does Simon from lynda.com tell you? What is programming? If you've ever watched the What is Programming with JavaScript series, he'll say, programming is
A recipe,
close,
set of instructions.
set of instructions. And when you think to yourself, yeah, but when, this is the analogy he uses, or the example he uses. Yeah, but when I'm playing a video game, right, and I have my little crosshairs and I hover over the starship and I fire and it blows up, that's a set of instructions? Yes. If your crosshairs match up to the XY coordinates of said starship and you hit fire and those match up, ship blows up. True? That's how it works. Holy shit, that must be a lot of code then. Yes, right? So now instructions to whatever you're trying to do. And what we are going to do when we are building a theme is, through our theme, we are going to give instructions to what our theme should dig into the database and retrieve to present. Make sense? Right? Okay. Any questions so far? Is this helping your?
This is helping me, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's not approaching it this way at all.
Yeah. Did Milo approach it this way?
Yeah, he used a lot of code from they learned from this class.
Okay.
Class.
Yeah. Good. Very good. Good. So that being said, then, if you download that WordPress burrito, that's what I call it, or WordPress taco, whatever you want to call it, right? Enchilada.
It is National Burrito Day.
It is. Ooh. Well, I guess class might be over then. No.
Burritos for everyone.
Well, did you bring in burritos? Yeah, you can't go telling us that and not have any.
We do that later in my life.
Okay. You bastard. So here's WordPress.org, right? WordPress.org then is Encyclopedia WordPress. Showcase. Chicago Sun-Times uses it. Themes. You can download a whole bunch of themes that other people have built. Plugins. There is a repository of plugins that other people have built that you can snap into your website. A lot of which are really, really good. A lot of which are really, really untrustworthy, right? You too can have a plugin on WordPress.com or on WordPress.org. Support. They have forum. They also have documentation, which is called the codex. Now, they've taken their codex and they've split it into development and codex. They've done something weird with it. But here's what I want. Here's what I know. If I ever want to say something like create a second Oh, create a second Instagram account. People are up to a lot of stuff. Secondary WordPress loop. What's going to come up is codex.wordpress, developer.wordpress. Look for those, right? Because if I wanted to say something like query posts, so I used query posts here for giving this loop instructions on how and or on what to retrieve to display here as its loop items, right? Meaning, for the portfolio loop, I want to say query posts children of 186, query posts children of 185, query posts just the normal content, query posts the latest 6 postings, or apparently what I said here, podtings. That's not right. Yeah, I don't think podtings exist, do they?
Yeah.
Really? They do? Okay. So if I then Google something like that, and I can go to the query post function, right? It'll tell me, here's the query post function. Here is the set of arguments that you can put in there. And here are then some of the parameters and what you can do to return certain things, right? So if you can then read programming, in other words, if you can understand that query posts here is a function, and this is the argument structure, cat equals 1, tag equals apples and oranges, right? Query post category 1, tag of apples and oranges to display in a loop, right? Make sense? Okay. What's in a theme? Let's say it like this. In the themes folder, that's where you were going to store your themes, right? We are going to create a theme for you that you are going to be using. That theme then has a series of files associated with it. Go to my Web170 demo. And this is why you can just have one link to your code repository, right? So here is the theme, right? If I then go navigating through let's close some of the windows. I go navigating through my demo. What we're going to do is we are going to tag our template files, right? So we are going to set up our home page to use front-page.php. Our normal pages are going to use page.php. Our blog, right? So this one page is going to be a unique one. we are going to set this to be log, we are going to set this to be home or front. And if you feel like, holy shit, you're rushing through all this stuff, right? We're going to go all through it again, Sherrod, when we start building. So your blog feed then is going to use index.php, which is actually the first file that we're going to start out with. Each one of these postings is going to use single.php. Yeah.
Can you go back to your dashboard for 1 second?
Which dashboard?
Your WordPress app, whatever you were just plugging at. I guess you're making
In other words, my demo for this class or my business site?
either one. So you know how it shows like your plugins on the side, right, and your updates, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
So say a client brings you a WordPress theme that they want you to use, they want you to customize for them. How do you prevent them from going through later on and updating the theme and wiping out everything you've done? Because if it's like, if they buy a commercial theme and that person issues an update, it shows up on their list.
Uh-huh.
How do you prevent them from like?
You can't prevent them from doing anything. So you can't prevent them from doing anything, Dan. It's their website.
But you know what I mean, though. How do you caution them and say, hey, don't click that red button?
I tell them not to.
So there's no way to build anything into it.
I told Jet City Improv, don't fuck it up.
There you go. Okay.
Don't update your plugins unless you ask me.
Right.
And the theme I built for you is a custom theme. Okay? If you go and change a theme, your functionality is going to be wiped out.
Right. You just gotta tell them. I mean, there's no way to,
Right.
to basically prevent.
And you got to let them fuck it up and then pay you to fix it so that they will learn not to fuck it up.
Right.
Jet City Improv has done that.
I mean, it seems like it'd be a pretty common thing, right? If you,
Yes.
You're editing a theme for somebody or whatever, and then they update it, it's gone because it reverts everything.
Well, no. If you are creating a theme,
From scratch, yes.
right?
I'm saying if you were to use like a template per se
Shh, you
that,
guys.
say brush,
Yeah,
they can go.
yeah. So there's two ways of doing WordPress. One, they buy a pre-existing theme and you're a content manager and you just don't care, right? You feel like a dirty WHORE, right? Or don't start talking to Trang now, listen to me, right? Or you've developed a custom theme for them where you feel a lot better about yourself because you've designed and developed a custom theme for them. And I've done it where I've used a pre-existing theme and all I did was the guy would send me a list of what he wanted and I customized. Case in point, let's see if it's even still up. I bet if it is still up, his slider doesn't work. Leveraging smart, I misspelled it. Slider on the, oh no, they got it back working. So they bought a pre-existing theme and basically had content that they wanted me to put in and arrange it the way it's great, man. $60 an hour. But you bought it, you break it, it's yours, man. Right? So you have to be very upfront with them that this is what happens. And if you go adding plugins and updating things and they break, that's on you. Right?
There's no setting, in other words, that you can say this theme cannot be updated.
Well, you're not updated. Here's the thing. So a theme, so let me explain it like this. And this is why, so if they're using a pre-existing theme, yes, there might be updates to that theme that then when the author of that theme puts a new update onto WordPress.org, it'll send you a notification for you to update that theme. Okay? If we're doing a custom theme, this will get to answering your question. No longer are you going to be using FTP on that theme. Instead, what you are going to be doing is, and this is the workflow that I'm going to teach you in Web 2.10, right? Where what you guys are going to be doing is you're going to be having a team of 4 people that all 4 of you guys are going to be working on your theme together, right? That custom theme that you were going to be building for your client, that you designed the wireframes and visual design and architecture and ran through the whole gamut of stuff like in Web 200, right? So developer 1 and developer 2, and this is a drawing done by Kate Lee Husan. Can't remember her name. Kate Lee, yeah. So basically then what you're going to do is you're going to need to use GitHub, and we're going to talk about GitHub here in a minute, okay? So each one of these developers then is working on the same theme, the same set of files. So remember how we were just clicking through that and you saw front dash page, single, et cetera, et cetera. Those files then, we are going to start out by, we're going to take your main.html and convert it into index.php and go from there. And then we're going to use includes, footer, sidebar, header, etc. So let's say both me and Adam are working on this site, okay? So all of you on your desktop should have a GitHub icon here. I got to talk to them a little bit about it. When you launch it, install it, I got to talk to them about not having it install every single time. Yeah, because I talked to Ben the other day and he was saying, you know, I think we're not sure if it's going to do that every time. So I have to report back to him, but it's doing this. So if you are using your own laptop, download GitHub Desktop. So if you Google GitHub Desktop, download GitHub Desktop. How many of you are already using this? Good. Okay. So, how many of you have never used GitHub before? Really? All of you have? Good. I'm going to still do this demo anyway. You're not looking at me like you've used it before.
Because I just installed it, and then I know how to upload files, but I can never delete them once they're in mine, and I'm really frustrated.
I have your answer. So, if I have then, see if it gave me an error message. No? Okay. So, if I then have a GitHub account, UNC paths are not supported. Clone path. I don't know what that is. Please enter a storage directory. Huh. Well, so I'm logged in with my email address here. right? If I then actually go to GitHub on the web, I'm logged in. So what I want to do then for this class is I want to create a repo on GitHub repository of my template system. My template system is going to eventually become my theme. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to do that. So if you have a site, oops, I want that window open. If you have a site that you have done in Web 200 that you hopefully didn't delete from your server, if it's gone, Cornwell, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm always gonna go to Cornwell's. Okay, so here's Cornwell's proto site, right? So what he needs to do is he needs to make a template from his homepage and one main page. So again, the requirements in this class is you need a spot for a flex slider. You need somewhere on the home page to have some widgets. On a main page, you need a sidebar, you need a content area, okay? So if we want to make this into a template now, what we can do is view page source, select all, copy,
Yeah, isn't that not copying PHP?
right. Here's now the code for your main page template. Okay? In other words, the files that you need to present to me in your template structure are you need to make for your templates main HTML, home.html, your style sheet, if you have a flex slider in there, if you have scripts in there, your images folder, your fonts or whatever, right? So this is the template system that you need to make. So yeah, does that make sense how to reverse engineer your prototype like that, Chris?
Yeah.
So copy and paste the view source from your home page and a main page, name them home.html, main.html, go grab your style sheet, your images folder, and so on and so forth, and make a new folder.
And the reason you're doing that from the view sources specifically to them in PHP or anything?
Yes, yeah, because I want, it's like starting over from your template system in Web 200, except for you probably did a lot of style work, right, on your websites and refined a lot of stuff when you were making the into a prototype, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I want, right? So I'm going to go to mine. Oh, actually, here we are. My WEB170 templates. Thanks, Kelvin. So I'm just going to download this. Oh, knock that off. Templates master. I am going to extract this after the blue donut spins. Extract all. Browse. I then want to create a, yeah, I'll extract it here in my WEB170 folder, extract. So now I should have Web170 templates master in there. I have my main home, all my stuff like that. Make sense? This is the one I did for the section, my section 1. So I am going to rename this one. SP17-02. Okay, so I want to make this into a repository now. Okay, so we are going to move this template system into our themes folder once we install WordPress. But if we make it into a repository now through GitHub Desktop, it is going to be a Git repository. In other words, in that folder, you're going to see hidden, you're not going to see hidden files. You're not going to see Git files. I'll show you what I mean. I might not have made that into a repository correctly last year. Never mind. I'll show it to you when we get there. But you want to make that into a repository now. So here's GitHub for Desktop. Here is that folder. Here's what you're going to, remember what you did with fonts in the typography class? What? Oh. And it'll say create repository. On Mac, it'll say, this isn't a repository. Would you like to make it into one? And you say yes, create repository. And I got some errors on this on Monday, but
Don't you want to make sure it's linked to the themes?
what?
Was it linked to your themes folder?
No, because we haven't created a themes folder yet. This is our templates, right? So basically, yeah, your templates, this is going to be, but for right now, it's just our template, right? In other words, we're going to move this into the themes folder at a later date, okay? And it'll still be this repository. So you want to hit this button up here, publish. Description. Publish. Hopefully now, we go to GitHub, and we go to our account, we go to repositories. I now have Web170 Spring 17.02, right? And this is where I ran into errors last time. Okay, if we go here now, and I say first, commit to master. It actually didn't send it all the way up last time. And Dwayne said there was an error of some sort. That there was an error message that was being hidden. I'm not seeing an error message. But let's say it like this, okay? So if we were two developers, let's say I added Adam as a collaborator on this template theme system, right? So Adam and I would be then There it is. Developer 1 and developer 2. Okay. So what we would do then is, if I then opened up and I did not have automatically upload files to server on save. I'm going to enable that later on because I'm going to be using FTP here in this classroom. But let's say if we were in the 210 class, we wouldn't be uploading files via FTP. Instead, if I opened up this file and put in a test comment, right? I went back to GitHub here and hovered over this repository. Yep. Something is not working. I'm going to have to troubleshoot it. What was the error? What was the error? Well, when it gets fixed, if I hit that sync button, right? If Adam was working on, let's say, page.php, and I was working on single.php, and Adam pushed his changes to GitHub at 3 p.m., and I was still working on mine. And I pushed my changes to GitHub at 3:05 p.m. It would push to GitHub my changes and pull what Adam worked on from GitHub to my local machine. Thereby, we would all have a synchronized version of the theme we were working on. Does that make sense? Then what we would do is we would have to get GitHub and our server a public and private key pair to talk to each other. Don't worry about that. But once we did that, here it is in this right here. We'd have to make a SSH keys. How many of you have ever made SSH keys? Okay. We would clone our theme onto our server, right? So we had a clone of our repository on our server. So essentially, we have a clone here, we have a clone here, we have a clone here of the themes. Not copies, clones. Not copies, clones. Okay? That all talk to each other and synchronize through GitHub with each other. So what we would do is we would log into our server via command line. Type in the wrong password, probably. navigate to our themes folder. And again, I have clone on my server. These are all the files in that theme. And if I had made changes then on my local environment, because again, I have a duplicate environment on my local computer, right? I would then run and git pull origin master. And if I had made any changes, it would pull those changes from GitHub to my server. Does that answer that question about the not FTPing any longer? So therefore, I remember what the point of this was. Takes me a while. I'll get on a tangent. I can't remember why I'm talking about it, but I'll keep talking about it. You guys are listening like it's really important, so I keep going. It is important. It is important. Because the question revolves back to if they update the theme or not.
Well, if they update the pre-existing.
Right. So if you did a custom theme, this is the way you update the theme. That was my point. So that's how eventually in the 210 class, right? So did you sync it all?
Yeah.
Yeah? You guys, Adam, you did it too? Mm-hmm. Right. Bella, were you in 210? Who else was in 210? Who else is taking 210? Okay, just you guys.
I didn't use the like they know it's all art.
Yeah, because Anna was the master of the server, and she didn't give you access.
Not yet, she intends to.
Intends to?
It'll talk to come back from
So
vacation.
there's some like the desktop version of GitHub, it's just so multiple people are working. But if you're the only one working on it, it doesn't make a difference. If you're online GitHub or your desktop.
I always use desktop because I just open it up and it pushes and stuff. But so for this class, right? Like I said, and I have to figure out how to get GitHub Desktop working correctly here. But for this class, you could also do this. So if this right here is my theme that I just created a repository for on GitHub, I could always go to the section 2 demo right here and drag and drop it over this interface like that. And that's where it'll upload stuff. And then I can say, so here's the thing. Every time you guys are doing an assignment and publishing you're done with your assignment, you are going to push your code to GitHub and then comment with the name of the assignment that you just uploaded. Does that make sense? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and look at your code and post links to means. Maybe. I don't know. If you find a unicorn in your code, maybe I don't know. Right? But I will go into the theme and check your code, and then I can leave a comment of, I was here, everything was great, you get a, or things don't look good, you need to. Right. So that's how I'm going to go. So what you guys need to do is get your staging area up and running. get your code for your theme up there eventually, right? Because we are then come week 4, creating WordPress theme from a template. I should actually say creating WordPress theme from your template system. That should be change the name of that. But that's where we're going to take your template system and start adding in the WordPress code to it. So for an example, what do you mean by that, Mike? Let me show you real quick. So for instance, once we get it up and running, when we need to then link to your style sheets, right? We are going to use the function loginfo style sheet URL to access your style sheet. Make sense? And then week by week, we're just going to code in the WordPress functionality and chop your thing up into a theme in a WordPress system. And at the end, you should then have a working WordPress site with Momentum, right? But at least you'll know how to build a WordPress site. Yeah, Ron.
The first stage of transferring over, if I can just kind of summarize what I think you said when I wrote that. We're going to take our old project. We're going to create that structure, set up in the root folders where we had lots of HTML and PHP files. We're going to have some homepage, so we're going to just home.html. One of the secondary pages under the domain.html. The CSS that was down under a CSS other folder some name is now going to be in a styles.css in the root.
You can do it however it's linked up.
Okay, everything else is the same.
Yeah.
Just two. We've lost all the other pages. We have two that will become the templates for everything else.
Correct.
Okay.
Because we're going to take that and then convert it into a WordPress theme.
Very good.
So you're,
We have-
did you do your little thing yet? Mike?
What?
You can go first.
Oh, I'm not sure if you did this little hands-out thing.
I have not, because what I'm doing right now is taking a picture of the whiteboard.
When you're done.
And then photos, whiteboard.
So do we just submit a link on the comment section
To your staging area.
like, on this WEB170 choose your project site?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll get that link and put it on the student page.
Okay.
Right? And then from there, that's how I'm going to grade you. You don't have to keep posting stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
So what I'm doing here, this is hopefully, we'll see it in the video, right? Because I don't know if you've ever seen, I think you saw me do this in WEB105, where I am uploading this photo, then to well, that photo should of the whiteboard drawing. There it is. So for those of you that are watching this on video, this is the whiteboard drawing that I was, see, Chad, I mean, how awesome is that, right? It's over there.
Now it's over there.
Now it's over there. And if I ever want to refer back to it, it's right there.
Look at that website.
See what I'm saying?
It's like that.
How about that? Huh? Everything is a post ID. All right, Shad, how do you want to sign off today, brother?
Go ahead. Lead us.
Don't use your firearms illegally anymore, man.